Welcome to SDH's coverage of everything going on in the Southeast when it comes to soccer. And what we're going to be doing with the Soccer Showcase is we're going to be going over 4 conferences and give you kind of a buzz through the action, get you ready for all the action that will be coming up over the next 7 days. It'll be the SEC, the ACC, the SoCon, and it will also involve the SunBelt. And when we get into Peach Belt action as well with Clayton State and Georgia Gwinnett and all of our other friends down there in Oglethorpe as well, we'll give you kind of a tour as to what's going on in and around college soccer here in the southeastern United States. So let's start you off with what has been going on in the Southeastern Conference. Right now, you look at the standings heading into the first weekend of October. Right now in the East, Vandy with a record of 2 wins on the board, 6 division points, and an overall record of 8-1-1. Georgia has 3 division points. They are at a record of 8-4. South Carolina, Tennessee, they also have 6 division points with records of 2-0. South Carolina is at a record of 7-2-3. Tennessee is at 6-3-1 through their first 10. Missouri, Kentucky, and Florida do not have any division points yet. Missouri's 0-1 at 4-5-1. Kentucky's 0-2 at 7-4. Florida's 0-3 with a record of 2-9. In the SEC West, division points right now, Mississippi State has 9 of them with their 3 wins in division. Arkansas has 6 division points, 3 division points to Alabama and Ole Miss. No division points for LSU, who's 0-1, Texas A&M, who's 0-3, and Auburn, who is 0-2. Overall records, Alabama has the most wins in the West with a record of overall 11-1-1. Ole Miss and Mississippi State both at 9-0-2. LSU's at 7-2-2. Arkansas is at 8-2-1 through their first 11. Texas A&M 5-5-2 through their first 12. And Auburn has a record of 4-3-4, 0-2-3 on the road, 4-1-1 at home, and they are at the bottom of the SEC West. Looking at the scores of the last 7 days or so, what we will do is kind of work our way back from the weekend to the 24th, and we'll play it forward and catch everybody up on the activity that happened over the last 7 days. Last Sunday, the 25th, Georgia got the win over Florida by the score of 3-0. Tennessee over Kentucky 4-1. Arkansas, ranked 20th in the country, beat 8th-ranked South Carolina by the score of 1-0. Vandy beat Missouri by the score of 2-0. And in that matchup, you had Ole Miss winning over Auburn by the score of 1-0. 13th-ranked Ole Miss. You had Alabama winning over Texas A&M by the score of 3-0, and Mississippi State knocking off LSU by the score of 3-2. Looking at the players of the week for Week 6, it was on the offensive side, Ava Tankersley, the junior out of St. Peters, Missouri, helped Arkansas get the win over Auburn and at number 8 South Carolina, assisting in the game winner against Auburn Thursday, got the game winner on the road herself on South Carolina on Sunday. With the assist, Tankersley co-leads the nation in assists per match at .89, second in the league in total assists with 8, played a combined 162 minutes this week and led the Hogs in points with 3. Defensive Player of the Week. For Vandy, it is the junior defender Alex Wagner out of Atlanta. Alex played a key role limiting Kentucky and Missouri to a combined 3 shots on goal. Also scored an amazing volley Thursday against Kentucky to give Vandy the 2-0 lead, cleared the ball off the goal line in both wins on Thursday and Sunday. Clearance on Sunday at Mizzou preserved Vandy's lead, led to Alex Kerr's last-second goal. Here's your highlights of Vandy and Kentucky, courtesy of our friends at ESPN Plus, the SEC, and the SEC Network.
Swings it in. Plenty of air. Backside, there's Cutshaw. Up top and in. It is a goal for Alex Wagner. After the corner, it found number 27, and she makes it 2-0 Commodores.
Freshman of the week goes to Alabama freshman forward Gianna Paul out of Huntington Station, New York. Paul had a goal and an assist in Alabama's win against Texas A&M, scored 4 goals in her rookie campaign, 11 points so far this season. So congratulations to Ava, to Alex, and to Gianna. For the weekly awards for Week 6 in the SEC. So getting you ready for the matchups this weekend we do have some Friday football. 6 o'clock Eastern, Vandy is at Auburn. That one is on SEC Network Plus. 8 o'clock Eastern, 2 games both on SEC Network Plus. Number 21 Mississippi State is at Missouri, and Tennessee is at Ole Miss. And that will close out the month of September and will get us ready for the month of October. Activity skips to Sunday, and you have Kentucky at LSU. That one is on SEC Network. That is at 2 o'clock Eastern time. At 8 o'clock Eastern, it is Rice at Texas A&M. That one is on SEC Network Plus. Also, going through the week that will be when it comes to all of the action, it's going to be a pretty light week early on until you get into Thursday the 6th, and that's when everybody's on the board. 6 o'clock, number 12 Arkansas at Florida. 7 o'clock Eastern, 3 matches. LSU at Texas A&M. That one is on SEC Network. All these others are on SEC Network Plus. Auburn is at Kentucky. Missouri is at Tennessee. 7:30 Eastern time. South Carolina is at Mississippi State. Number 22 at number 21 in Starkville. Georgia is at Vandy, and your match of the week in the SEC. It is number 5 Alabama hosting number 13 Ole Miss. So that is a quick run of everything that is going on in the SEC. Quick shout-out to the fans in Mississippi State in that 3-2 win over LSU. Record crowd, 1,483 back on Sunday night in Starkville. So great work by the fan base there in Starkville for the 1,483 fans, beating the previous high of 81 less against South Carolina back in 2018. So 1,483 fans, a new program record. Well done by Mississippi State. Shifting over into the ACC, looking at the standings there when it comes to men's and women's soccer. Looking at the standings starting off on the men's side. Points in conference right now. On the Atlantic, it is Wake Forest, having won all 3 of their first games. They're at 9 points. Louisville, 2-1-1. They're at 7. Syracuse has 6. Clemson and NC State have 3 each with 1 win on the board. And Boston College, 0-2-1 so far this season out of the blocks. They have 1 point in the Atlantic Division. In the Coastal, Duke is out of the blocks with 7 points at 2-0-1. Pitt and Virginia each with 6 at 2-1 in their first 3. North Carolina 1-1-1 across the board, 4 points in their first 3 matches. Notre Dame is at 3 points at 1-2. Virginia Tech out of the blocks is 0-3. Looking at the week that was, you went back to men's soccer back on Friday. We're anticipating a couple of games here. One is already in the books before we started taping. Louisville over NC State by the score of 1-0. Syracuse is at Virginia Tech in Blacksburg. That one is on ACC Network Extra at 6 o'clock. On the big ACC Network at 6 from South Bend, it is BC and Notre Dame. Virginia and Pitt are going on at 7 o'clock Eastern time at Pittsburgh, and that is also on ACC Network Extra. Also on the board after October the 1st, you've got 1 game in men's soccer on October 1st, 7 o'clock Eastern time, Duke at Wake, and that one is in Winston-Salem, 7 o'clock on ACC Network Extra. Women's soccer on Saturday, Syracuse at Wake Forest at noon on ACC Network, Virginia and Duke on the women's side on Sunday afternoon, 1 o'clock in Durham. That one is on ACC Network Extra. Also working our way through the week on Monday, Clemson at North Carolina, 7 o'clock in Chapel Hill. That one is on Big ACC Network, so keep an eye on that one as well. Men's soccer, big day on Tuesday. University of Denver, the Pioneers, go to Charlottesville, Virginia to take on the Cavaliers. That one is on ACC Network Extra. Reminder, the North Carolina-Elon match has been postponed for Tuesday. Cornell is at Syracuse. That one's on ACC Network Extra at 7, along with High Point at NC State, Howard and Duke. Virginia Tech is at East Tennessee. That one is on ESPN+. Also at 7 o'clock in Winston-Salem on ACC Network Extra. It is Jacksonville at Wake Forest, so it is Dolphins and Demon Deacons. Also, Wednesday, October the 5th, Notre Dame is at Indiana in Bloomington. That one is on BTN+. So you can catch that intrastate matchup with Notre Dame and Indiana from Bloomington in the midweek on the women's side. Thursday is the big day for women's soccer in the ACC. Syracuse at BC in Chestnut Hill. That one's on ACC Network Extra at 5:30. Virginia Tech at Miami at 6 in Coral Gables. That one is on big ACC Network. Pitt is at North Carolina at 7 in Chapel Hill. NC State is at Notre Dame in South Bend. Wake Forest is at Duke in Durham. Clemson is at Louisville. And all of those are on ACC Network Extra. On the ACC Network, it is Florida State and Virginia. That one is at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. And that gets us to all of the games in the future 6 or 7 days as you're looking for all of the action going on in the ACC. From the last 7 days on the men's side, Duke with a 1-0 win at home against Boston College. Wake Forest put 6 on the board against Clemson. Final score there was 6-1. 2 goals in the first half, 4 in the second, in front of an announced crowd of 37-44. Wake on the board with the first 6 goals. Abubakar Niang, Jose Kajima, Vlad Walent, Chase Oliver, Leo Guarino, and Oscar Sears. So 6 on the board out of the blocks before Clemson could get their lone goal at 89-24 by Brandon Parrish on a penalty. So dominant performance there by Wake Forest. Shots on the day, Clemson had 19 with 7 on target. Wake had 14, half of them on target. 6 saves for Wake Forest on the day. 14 corners for Clemson. But Wake Forest ends up with the win to improve to 9-0 with that win by the score of 6-1. BC over Notre Dame by the score of 1-0. That one was in Notre Dame. And Virginia beat Syracuse by the score of 1-0 in Syracuse. Virginia improved to 6-3 at that particular marker. Syracuse dropped to 7-1 in front of 2,300 at the SU Soccer Stadium. Goal by Leo Alfonso from Virginia, and it was unassisted. And a lot of cards in that particular match with Virginia and Syracuse. You had a red card from Syracuse in the 21st minute from Giorgio Kashevsky, and that meant that Syracuse was going to be playing without Kashevsky's services for the remainder of the match. You end up with the second yellow from Kashevsky, so you had 4 instances for Syracuse and then 6 yellow cards for Virginia in that game at SU Soccer Stadium. But Virginia got the win, improved to 6-3 on the year, 2-1 in conference on the day. Also, Notre Dame a dominant 8-0 win over Kalamazoo College. Davidson beat Virginia Tech by the score of 3-1 at Davidson. Yale and Duke a 1-1 draw in Durham. And North Carolina Greensboro got a draw out in Louisville. Once again, that was a 1-1 draw as well. On the women's side, looking at the schedule from the last 7 days and getting you ready for the next 7. Going backward, on Sunday, the 25th, it was BC losing to North Carolina by the score of 3-0. Pitt on the road at Notre Dame with a 3-1 win. Same score, Syracuse at home over Miami. Same score, Florida State knocking off Clemson in Tallahassee by the score of 3-1. Virginia shuts out Louisville in Charlottesville by the score of 2-0. Same score, Virginia Tech at Wake Forest, winning in Winston-Salem, and Duke put 6 on NC State. Final score there, 6-0. Thursday, Notre Dame over BC by the score of 3-0. That was in Newton, Massachusetts. NC State over Clemson by the score of 2-1. On Saturday, the upcoming 7 days, Florida State and Miami. That one's in Coral Gables. That one's at 5 o'clock on Saturday. North Carolina at Virginia Tech in Blacksburg at 7. Louisville is at Pitt. That one is also at 7 o'clock. All those matches on ACC Network Extra. Sunday, Syracuse is at Wake Forest at noon. That one's on big ACC Network. Virginia and Duke in Durham at 1 o'clock. That one's on ACC Network Extra. And next Thursday, the 6th, full schedule. Syracuse at BC in Chestnut Hill. That one's at 5:30 on ACC Network Extra. Virginia Tech at Miami in Coral Gables at 6. That one's on ACC Network. Pitt at North Carolina. Clemson at Louisville. Wake at Duke. NC State at Notre Dame. All those at 7. All those on ACC Network Extra. Florida State at Virginia in Charlottesville on ACC Network. That one is at 8 o'clock. And that gets us through the schedules in the ACC for the week that was. Okay, so here we go. That's 10 days ago. Okay, week 5. Couple of scheduling notes. Hurricane Ian prompted 2 schedule changes for the weekend. Louisville at NC State was moved to the noon start on Friday. That's why that game was already in the barn. Clemson at NC State was moved to 7 o'clock on Monday. We've got a 6-team conference, remember, in the SoCon, and there has not been any conference play as of yet. North Carolina Greensboro, we mentioned them. They are out of the blocks at 5-1-3. Furman's at 5-2-1. Mercer's at 4-2-4. We'll catch you up with Mercer in just a little bit. East Tennessee State's at 4-3-1. Wofford 3-5-1, and VMI is 2-6-1 going into the week that will be. Updating you from what happened over the last 7 days on the men's side, VMI knocked off Mary Baldwin by the score of 2-0. North Carolina Greensboro and Louisville had a 2-2 draw. East Tennessee State shut out Radford by the score of 3-0. Wofford over Queens by the score of 4-3. And our match of the week in the SoCon, Mercer with a 1-0 win over Georgia Southern. Mercer improved to 4-2-4. With that win, Georgia Southern dropped to 1-8. And here's your highlights, courtesy of our friends at the SoCon on ESPN+.
Gaither opens up. Gaither has it on his left, finds the pass to Jabang, cuts it across, and it's put in the back of the net. It's an own goal, but it's the work rate from the Mercer players that creates the opportunity. Ball put into the back of the net by, I believe it's Alex Smith, who has been a fantastic defender for his side. He hangs his head, but it's the delivery into the mixer from the Bears that creates the opportunity. We get another look at it here, and first time cross, and he had to be there.
When you look at the women's soccer side, back on Thursday, both matches ended with a draw. East Tennessee State, Mercer, a goalless draw. Furman and Wofford, a goalless draw. Looking at the standings in the SoCon, Furman right now 2-0-1 in conference. UTC at 2-0. Wofford, Samford each at 1-1-1. The Citadel, North Carolina, Greensboro, Western Carolina, all at 1-1. Mercer at 0-1-2. East Tennessee State at 0-2-1. VMI at 0-1. So looking at the schedule for what is going to be happening in the next 7 days. Earlier on your Friday, Samford knocked off North Carolina Greensboro by the score of 2-1. Chattanooga plays VMI in Lexington, Virginia on your Friday afternoon, weather permitting. On Sunday, Chattanooga's at North Carolina Greensboro at 2 o'clock. Samford's at VMI. That one's also at 2. And Western Carolina plays at Mercer on the weekend in Macon. All of those matches are on ESPN+. Monday, East Tennessee State goes to the Citadel in Charleston. Once again, weather permitting. Look for a reschedule on that one because of Hurricane Ian. Also on Thursday, the Citadel is at Furman at 7 o'clock. Mercer is at Wofford at 7 o'clock. Both of those matches played in the state of South Carolina. Once again, conditions permitting after Hurricane Ian has cleared out. On Friday, Samford is at UTC at 6 o'clock in Chattanooga. VMI is at East Tennessee State. And UNC is at Western Carolina. Going to the schedule on the men's side over the next 7 days. Let's take a peek and see what's going on in the SoCon. You have one match on Friday in Johnson City, Tennessee. VMI is at East Tennessee State. Saturday, 2 matches. Furman at North Carolina Greensboro. Wofford at Mercer. Both of those at 7 o'clock. Both of those on ESPN+. Tuesday, Lipscomb visits Mercer at 6 o'clock. Furman is at USC Upstate in Spartanburg. And Virginia Tech goes to Johnson City, Tennessee to take on East Tennessee State. Wednesday is the last match of the week on the men's side. Queens goes to North Carolina Greensboro. And that one is at 7 o'clock in Greensboro, North Carolina. SunBelt Conference now, starting off on the men's side. And it is South Carolina on top with the 1 win in conference play, 5-3-1 overall for Tony Annan. Kentucky and Old Dominion each at 1-0-1. Marshall at 1-0-2. Georgia State's 1-1 on the year in conference with a record of 5-2-1. Coastal Carolina has 2 draws, 3-3-3 across the board for them. James Madison, West Virginia each with a draw and a loss. And Georgia Southern is at the bottom of the table with 2 losses so far in conference with a 1-8 record overall. Current unbeaten streaks. Kentucky's got the longest with a record of 6-0-2. Marshall's at 6, Old Dominion at 5, South Carolina's at 3, Coastal Carolina has a 2-game unbeaten streak. When it comes to points and goals, points, right now Marshall's Matthew Bell is your leader at 14 points with 7 goals in 8 matches played. Alva Garcia Pascual from Coastal Carolina has 6 goals on the year. A lot of folks with 5. Milo Yosef from Marshall, Aitor Bjorgolfsson from Kentucky, Tristan Jenkins from ODU. They each have 5. Nick Gutman with the Kentucky has 4. Adam Luckhurst at South Carolina with 3. Joao Souza from Marshall with 2. Justin McLean from GSU with 3. Ryan Crooks, among the top in points, has 2 goals on the season. On the women's side, broken up in two divisions and 2 conferences. It is in the East, James Madison right now out of the blocks at 2-0-1. Georgia State and Georgia Southern both at 1-0-2. App State at 2-1. Old Dominion and Marshall at 1-2. Coastal Carolina is 0-3 this season, starting out winning only one of their first 10 at 1-7-2. In the West, Texas State, South Alabama, each with a record of 2-0-1. Arkansas State is at 2-1. Southern Miss is at 1-1-1. Louisiana Monroe at 1-2. Troy and Louisiana each have records of 0-2-1. Looking at your leaders in points and goals so far in the individual statistics for the SunBelt when it comes to points on the board, it's Morgan White from Marshall, 8 goals on the year and 17 points. 6 goals to Inga Konst of Louisiana Monroe, Megan Browse of Coastal Carolina, and Maddie Goss of Texas State. 5 goals. Amanda Adanasi from James Madison to be paired with Monique Gray from USA, Ashley Washburn from ULM, and Jasmine Green from USA. 4 goals on the board for Imani Addy from USA, 3 goals for Mara Grootkamp. She has 6 assists on the season, but Morgan White right now the points leader in the SunBelt on the women's side with 8 goals and an assist. News out of the SunBelt Conference, Aitor Bjorgolfsson from Kentucky, Sebastian Conlon from James Madison are your players of the week for last week. The senior out of Jessheim, Norway, 3 goals in 2 matches. Got his week started with back-to-back goals against Lipscomb on Tuesday to secure the 3-2 win. He continued his momentum, finding the back of the net in the 80th minute against Georgia State to add to the 5-1 win there. Bjorgolfsson ranks first on his squad, 4th in the conference with 5 goals on the year. Here's your highlights of that one. A familiar voice on the call, courtesy of our friends at the SunBelt and ESPN+.
Goes back to his right. Bjorgolfsson, top of the 18, lays it off. Creek, back to him, shot, gets through Rankenberg. And it had been a frustrating night for Aitor Bjorgolfsson. Not anymore. Goal number 4 for Kentucky.
Defensive Player of the Week, the freshman, Sebastian Conlon from James Madison. A pair of shutouts in James Madison's 1-0-1 week. Second most saves of the season with 6 and a 2-0 win against Georgetown. 4 stops at ODU to help them get their first point of the SunBelt era. Freshman keeper posted back-to-back shutouts for the first time in his career. Only keeper in the conference to turn a pair of clean sheets in the week 5 of the competition. Taking a peek at your schedule for the upcoming week, it is Old Dominion in Maryland on Friday Night Football in College Park. That one's at 6 o'clock. Saturday, South Carolina is at West Virginia in Morgantown at 3. Georgia State, Georgia Southern in Statesboro. That one's on ESPN+. We will look back at that one next week from the Borough. Kentucky, James Madison also at 6 o'clock from Harrisonburg, and that one is out there as well. Tuesday, Georgia Southern turns around, travels to DeLand, Florida to take on Stetson. That one is on YouTube. Robert Morris is at Marshall at 6:15 in Huntington, West Virginia, and that'll get us set up for the remainder of the week when it comes to the men's side. On the women's side, looking at the schedule over what happened in the last 7 days, the biggest day of activity was Sunday. Georgia State over Coastal Carolina by the score of 3-1 in Conway, South Carolina. And goals by Alondra Nieves, her first, Bree Barley, her second, Maddie Johnston, her 4th on the year, gave Georgia State the early 3-0 lead. Megan Browse got her 6th of the season, and that was in the 55th minute. Georgia State improved to 5-1-5 with that win. Coastal Carolina dropped to 1-7-2. James Madison and Southern Miss a goalless draw. Marshall in Huntington, West Virginia ended up with the 3-2 win over Appalachian State. Arkansas State 2-1 at Troy. South Alabama 1-0 over Louisiana. Texas State 1-4-1 in San Marcos over ULM. Georgia Southern on the road in Norfolk beat Old Dominion by the score of 1-0 in that matchup at the ODU Soccer Complex. It was in the second half. Elis Nemtsov with the goal in the 83rd minute gave Georgia Southern the win to improve to 2-2-5. Old Dominion dropping to 3-6-1. Setting up your activity in the week that will be, App State goes to James Madison. That one's on Friday afternoon. Saturday, Texas State is at Southern Miss. Marshall is at ULM. Both of those are on ESPN+. Sunday, a very busy day. Arkansas State, Georgia Southern at 11 a.m. Coastal Carolinas, Louisiana in Lafayette at noon, along with Troy and Georgia State. All of those are on ESPN+. South Alabama and Old Dominion is at 2 o'clock in Norfolk, Virginia. Thursday, we'll wrap up the week that will be 7 matches on the board. Louisiana's at Arkansas State at 3. Georgia State's at App State at 5 in Boone. Southern Miss taking on Coastal Carolina at 6. Georgia Southern is in Huntington, West Virginia, taking on Marshall. That one's on ESPN+, as are the other 7 o'clock matches, Old Dominion, Troy, James Madison, Texas State, and Louisiana Monroe and South Alabama. Over the last 7 days in Oglethorpe, we'll start you off with action on the men's side. Stormy Petrel's got a win in their SAA opener at Center. Center drops to 0-6-2 on the season. Oglethorpe improves to 4-3-1. Center got the first goal in the match. Luke Morgan got his second of the year in the 13th minute, but Daniel Lamont, Felipe Araujo, with 2 goals about 12 and a half minutes apart, got us to the half at 2-1, and Oglethorpe cruised from there for the SAA opener by the score of 1-0. Fourth win of the season for Oglethorpe. Outshot Center 15-7, 6-3 shots on goal. And Ian Farquhar got his second assist of the season, ranked second in assists so far this season. Ben Alram has 3. Next up for Oglethorpe, playing Sewanee in the second match of the SAA with kickoff set for 7 Eastern time on the 30th. Then they play at number 22 Emory, October 4, before returning to SAA play against Millsaps in Jackson, Mississippi, on October the 7th. On the women's side, with the news that's going on there, Petrels fell to a last-minute goal from Bob Jones. Their last time out, Bob Jones, out of the NCCAA, finishes with the win. They are now 6-3. Oglethorpe at 3-3-1, having lost their only match so far that they played in the SAA. Long scoreless battle, and then the 1 goal on the board, Francesca Peters in the 87th minute, and that was the difference on the day. Some of your stats for Oglethorpe: Kirsten Brown, 3 shots, 1 of them on target. Devin Canty, 2 shots, 1 of them on target. Mackenzie Jones, 1 shot with 1 on target. And next up for the women's soccer team, the Stormy Petrels remain at home to face Sewanee on Saturday afternoon at 5. The final non-conference game for the Petrels is Tuesday at nearby Emory at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Going to Georgia Gwinnett College, checking in with the Grizzlies in the CAC, and their schedule so far this year, 6-1-1 out of the blocks, and their last match was a 5-4 shootout at the Grizzly Soccer Complex to the University of Mobile, ranked top in the NAIA. So 5-4 loss there after knocking off Faulkner by the score of 6-2. Next up for them is a match at the Grizzly Soccer Complex Monday the 3rd against Washington Adventist out of Maryland. The Shock out of Maryland. That one is at 2 o'clock Monday afternoon, and then they will rest up for 4 days before Fisk comes to town. The Bulldogs on the 8th visit the GSC. So that is your look at men's soccer. And on the women's side, so far the schedule for Georgia Gwinnett College, looking at their schedule, they've received votes in the top 25 poll out of the blocks with a record of 2-3-5, playing up to competition. Last time out for the Grizzlies there, it was a match at Thomas, a 2-0 loss in Thomasville against the Nighthawks. Next step will be a match against Southeastern, the Fire out of Lakeland, Florida. That one will be Tuesday evening at 7 o'clock. So GGC heads to Southeastern for their lone match this week with a record of 2-3-5. 2-0-2 at home, but just 0-1-3 away from home, and 0-2 in neutral site matches so far this year. So that's your look at Georgia Gwinnett. And diving into the Lakers of Clayton State before we go, looking at their schedule so far this year, 4-4-2 out of the blocks, and they are 3-3 in conference play. Last time out for them was a 2-1 win at Young Harris in the Peach Belt, and they are getting ready for Senior Day. Laker Field with the University of North Georgia coming to town. That one has been moved to 1 o'clock, and so that will be on your Peach Belt viewing stations, and you'll be able to keep an eye on that with what's been going on in the Peach Belt as well. On the women's side, their soccer match has been postponed because of the weather. That one got pushed back to Monday morning. Sorry about that. On Monday morning is when you will get the Lakers on the ladies' side with a record of 0-6-2, 0-3-2 in conference. Last time out for them in the Peach Belt was a 1-1 draw against Georgia College. It was Youth Club Soccer Night at Morrow, at the Laker Field in Morrow. Next up for them, Flagler College, once again, remember, 11 o'clock on Monday morning in Morrow for the Lakers as well. That is your quick tour of everything going on in soccer here in the South. We'll catch you up on the Peach Belt in subsequent weeks, and we'll go through as many divisions as we can and give you all the highlights, news, and notes, and everything that is going on here with a very, very busy soccer footprint when it comes to the university systems here in the South. So for everybody here at SDH, that's your SDH College Showcase for the end of September. Play it safe, everybody. Enjoy your games. If you're close and you can catch one. Quality competition on the men's and women's side here in the Southeast.